I've seen you around, right? Somewhere. I mean, your voice. It's very. Are you sure we haven't?
He's on the academic honors team with me.
Oh.
And he came to my party.
Ah.
Yeah, very great party. Very nice. Nice house. Lots of windows.
You stayed for like 2 seconds.
Come on now. I was there for longer than that.
You disappeared.
No, I didn't. I didn't. I didn't disappear.
Yes, you did. Just like you always do. Just like you did in D.C.
Whew. It's terrible what happened in D.C., though. Were you scared? Bet you were glad your good old pal Spider-Man showed up in the elevator, huh?
Actually didn't go up. I was on the ground when everything happened. But yeah, we were lucky that he was there that day.
Good old Spider-Man.
Dad. The light.
Oh. Here we are. End of the line.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh, sweetie, why don't you go on inside? I need to have the dad talk with Miles.
Don't let him intimidate you. Love you, Dad.
Oh, love you too, sweetie. Does she know?
Know what?
So she doesn't know. Good. Close to the vest. I admire that. You know, got a few secrets of my own. For all the reasons I didn't want my daughter to date. Miles, nothing is more important than family. You saved my daughter's life, and I could never forget something like that. So, I want to give you one chance. You walk through those doors and forget any of this ever happened. And if you ever get in the way of my business again, I'll kill you. And everybody you love, I'll kill you dead. That's what I'm willing to do to protect my family, Miles. Understand? Hey. It just saved your life. What do you say?
Now, that will dissolve within the hour. The cops should be here before then, though. I have to go. Liz is waiting for me inside. Don't worry, I'll have her home before 11. 10? Okay, 10 it is. Remember, that'll dissolve within the hour. You're a bad guy. You deserve that.
Hey there guys, Mikey here, and the madness of Marvel in March continues. Today we're going over the sequel to the movie you never saw, Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, Spider-Man has had a very interesting history in terms of the live-action movies. Spider-Man has been owned by Sony and has been distributed by Sony for years now, and they've had a very up and down relationship. But then Marvel came over and said, hey, Spider-Man, I know that we've been apart for a very long time, but I want to be a part of your life now. I want you to be a part of mine. Can you do that for me? So Sony and Marvel made an agreement, and now Spider-Man is allowed to spend time with Marvel every couple of weekends a month. And thus we have the Homecoming movie, the movie where Spider-Man returns to his Marvel roots. And Marvel said they are going to give us the Spider-Man movie that we all have been wanting and craving and desiring ever since 2002, I think. And do we get that? It's better than Spider-Man 2. It's a little interesting, but I'll get into why. It's also a little weird doing a spoiler review for this movie because, well, there's not much to spoil. I don't think there's anything to spoil. Literally, if you've seen the trailers, you've seen Spider-Man Homecoming. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, that is one of the things that hurts this film. Specifically the second trailer. It really kind of pulls a Batman v Superman with its content. It's almost like the guys that did Batman v Superman for Warner Brothers, they got fired, and then they came over to Marvel, and they were like, oh, we're not gonna make the same mistake again. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're still gonna show you the whole movie, but this time, we're going to show you out of order.
Pack your things. Get out of my building.
I was just...
You're fired!
Yeah, I wasn't too happy about that. My friends always kind of wonder why I kind of hang out in concessions while the trailers are playing, and that's a prime reason why. But yeah, the trailers literally give you the entire movie. It's taking place right after Civil War. Spider-Man is still riding that high from actually being a part of the Avengers team. He gets a little too overzealous and a little too overeager trying to take on the Vulture, and he does some stupid things that causes Tony to take his suit back, and he has to go back to his old suit where he has to fight the Vulture anyway and stop him from doing something, so then he can get his suit back at the end and everything will be cool. Trust me, all of that is in the trailer. I mean, you're really just kind of going to the movie to fill in the gap. They're not bad gaps, though. I kind of like the villain's backstory and how it kind of ties into what happened after the events of the Avengers. Yet again, though, we get another villain that's Tony's fault. But it provided a clear-cut motivation as to why this character is doing what he's doing and why this group of people is doing what they're doing. It was a little weird because they were dealing a lot with the alien tech, and I feel like S.H.I.E.L.D. probably should have, been tipped off about this or been looking into it. And granted, S.H.I.E.L.D. does have its own problems, but I'm just kind of thinking like, oh, this is probably something that's a little important. But the point of it was that they were operating under the radar, and they were purposefully doing that so that they didn't trigger the attention of, Iron Man or Captain America or anything like that. Now, granted, Captain America is a fugitive in this particular timeline now, but that doesn't mean he still can't take names and kick butt, even if he is over in Africa. I think. He is still over there, right? I also like what they did with Aunt May. I feel like they probably got a little bit too much flack for quote-unquote hot Aunt May, so they kind of dialed that back a little bit and made her a little bit more motherly, and I kind of really like that. They only make one hot Aunt May joke, and they got it out of the way pretty early, so no problem there. But we are missing the point here. We're supposed to be talking about the Spider-Man, and this Spider-Man, of course, is played by Tom Holland. He was introduced in Civil War, and now he's here. He's helming his own movie now, and for the most part, I think this kid does pretty good. I kind of buy him as Peter Parker. I kind of buy him as this mix between the old school Peter Parker and the ultimate Peter Parker. I just kind of feel that mix between them. He kind of embodies both of them a little bit, which I think is pretty cool, and I think he does a really good job in the role. Granted, that may just be because of the contrast with everyone else around him. Spider-Man is, specifically Ultimate Spider-Man, is pretty hyperactive, and whereas this Peter Parker is dialed to about a 8.5, 9. All of the other kids are like dialed to 11. Like the immaturity level is kind of through the roof.
Peter Parker, what's up? So where's your pal Spider-Man? Let me guess, in Canada with your imaginary girlfriend? That's not Spider-Man. That's just Ned in a red shirt.
You're representing high school right now. High school. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm almost wanting you to bring back the 30-year-olds. There are some kind of odd choices in this movie as well, specifically one particular thing with Spider-Man. And I made sure to mention this in my movie reaction because I felt like it might be something that would tick a lot of people off, but Spider-Man doesn't have spider sense. It's weird. It's really weird. But after a while of just watching the movie, I honestly just forgot about it. It did bother me a little bit at first because Spider-Man was taking a lot of damage that he normally would not take. And I trying not to compare it to the other ones, but it's hard not to. But when you think about it, it was always cool when Spider-Man was just skating by something or just missing something because his spider sense kicked in and he could just dodge it right at the right moment at the right time. So it always kind of kept you on edge when stuff like that was happening. Here it's just kind of like he's slamming into a bunch of stuff and it's like you're cringing. You're not wincing, you're cringing mostly because you're like, man, I mean, I know you're going to be okay, but come on, man. But like I said, it didn't really break the movie for me. It's one of those things like once you accept that this is a thing, then you just kind of go with it. Another choice that I felt was kind of odd. This is Flash Thompson. Yeah, that's Flash. Again, I'm strangely okay with that. And no, I'm not talking about it in terms of race or anything like that. I'm talking about it in terms of him, well, being half Peter's size just about. But this Flash is not necessarily a bully per se. He's more of somebody that just gives Peter a lot of crap. He's a troll for the most part. And like I said, honestly, it works for the movie.
Peter Parker, what's up?
Except that. Yeah, that. No. I also like that there's a lot of head nods to the older Spider-Man movies in terms of, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies and the Mark Webb Spider-Man movies. But the one that everyone's really going to remember is the part where he pulls the bolt together. He's trying to hold the bolt together with his web after the bolt's been cracking in half and everything like that, which is supposed to be very reminiscent of the train sequence from Spider-Man 2. Unfortunately, the results of that was spoiled in the trailers, but we do have another good scene, which I feel is way better than that one. There's a part where Peter goes to stop the Vulture, and he arrives at his headquarters, or whatever you want to call it, and the Vulture obviously knew he was coming. He'd already cleared out and everything like that, and the Vulture drops, kind of implodes the building on top of Peter, and Peter's stuck in there and he's screaming for help and everything like that because he doesn't have his suit anymore. He doesn't have anything to enhance his powers or his senses or anything like that. It's just him in his old gear. So he's panicking and it feels real when he's doing it, and then he just realizes no one's going to help me. I have to get out of this myself. It was one of those moments where you're really, really rooting for this character, and that really kind of brought it home. Well, it's a Marvel movie, so we have to talk about it. We gotta talk about that humor, cause it's in there. So granted, this movie is an action comedy, so there were a lot of things that I did give a pass to. The problem is, I feel like there were certain people that didn't get that memo, because there were scenes in here that were actually very chilling and very serious. Specifically the scene where the Vulture is threatening Peter because after he finds out who he is, he threatens him, and it's a really just kind of chilling type scene because Michael Keaton is playing this character so well and so intimidatingly that it's really resonating with you as an audience member as you're watching. And then we immediately followed it up with this. I know most of the crowd got a laugh out of it, but I'm just come on, man. Can we just feel something for once? Can we feel just a little bit? Can we just, can you just let it settle? Can you let it marinate for a minute? And that's not the only one. There are several examples, but I'm not going to go into that. I don't want this to be a stupidly long video. And that just goes back into the whole thing that I always say. It's not that you tell a joke. Jokes are fine. One-liners are fine. Where you tell that joke and where you put that one-liner is the problem. So I made a little bit of a crack earlier about this being the sequel to the movie you never saw because honestly, this movie does feel a lot like a sequel. Now granted, we did see Spider-Man in Civil War, but if I'm being 100% honest, I feel like this Spider-Man was not that same Spider-Man. Just the overall feel of this character was different from Civil War. Now I know Civil War was a more serious quote-unquote movie, but it just didn't feel like the same character almost. Kind of like what a lot of people were saying about Black Panther, when they felt like this Black Panther in the movie was, in his own movie, was way more toned down than he was in Civil War. And I get Black Panther more than I get Spider-Man. Now granted, I know Spider-Man. I have been following this character for years. But I think it's a problem when you're just kind of like you're at a point where you're just like, I don't know what your motivation is. And that's not to say I don't get his motivation for the movie. I know what he's trying to do in terms of the movie, in terms of the story that's written. But I feel like as a character, as a fully fleshed out character, I just don't get him. Because we know in previous incantations of Spider-Man, he's always been kind of driven by not letting what happened to his uncle happen to other people. But honestly, I don't feel that here. So if the motivation is something else, I don't know what it is. I don't know if you saw my quick review of The Amazing Spider-Man, but what I basically said, one of the things that was a problem with it, is that the movie felt incomplete because it felt like a movie. It felt like a TV pilot. Like I felt like I should come back next week for episode 2. This movie feels like I came in mid-season. It's like, yeah, I know the character. I get what you're doing in this particular instance. But as a whole, I'm not feeling it. Granted, I don't think that's Tom Holland's fault. I think that's more of a writing type thing. I think they were trying to stray as far away from an origin story as they possibly can, but they may have done that a little bit too much. So that's probably something they need to tighten up a little bit in the third movie. Now, I have all these things that I've been ranting about. I have all these gripes and stuff that I've been talking about with this movie, but in all honesty, I still like it. This is the weird thing about the movie that I was talking about earlier, is that this movie, like, if I sit and think about it, there's things that just irritate me to no end. You know, like the quote-unquote teenage characters who act like 11-year-olds for the most part, like the lack of commitment to scenes and stuff like that, the interjection of jokes at the wrong time and stuff like that, the timeline that they kind of screwed up a little bit but they got back on track at the end or whatever, and just things like that. It's just like that's just, you know, the Spider-Man's overall motivations and not being able to really feel where you're coming from and where you're actually going. It's stuff like that. Like, if I sit down and think about that, it's like, man, this stupid movie, man. And then when I sit down and actually watch the movie, I just like it all over again. It's like when you have a significant other or something like that and they just get on your nerves and you're just like, I'm not taking this anymore. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna tell her what for. And then she just comes in and she's so sweet and she's dressed all nice and everything like that, and you're just like, take me. And then you just wake up the next morning smelling like waffles and regret. Damn it, Spider-Man Homecoming. Why can't I quit you? But yeah, that's all I really got to say about, like, in terms of a spoiler review for a Spider-Man Homecoming. I mean, like I said, there's not anything to spoil. Oh, Pepper and Tony are getting married. That's the thing. Which, I'm happy for them. Good for them. But yeah, other than that, there's nothing to spoil. If you've seen the trailers, you've seen this movie. But the question is, how does this measure up against the other ones? Or against the other recent adaptations of the Spider-Man comic? That does beg the question, who did it better? It almost sounds like the topic of a video that someone should do to close out March Marvel Madness on March 31st at 8 p.m. on Saturday. Yeah, I know this is released on Saturday, so I guess I'll see you later today. So what do you guys think about Spider-Man Homecoming? Whatever you think, put it down in the comments below. You can be as specific as possible. What scenes did you like? What were your favorite moments in the movie? Put it down in the comments below because I would love to know. Thank you guys for tuning in to March Marvel Madness as presented by the CJC on McBlam Entertainment, where we try to bring a little bit of enjoyment to your day every day. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.
I wanna take you for a ride.